Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi, and I'll be your host. And in this episode, we're going to talk to Miss Teresa Eccles about her fantastic Adventures by Disney trip she recently went on and the group that she hosted. I am joined by our panel of experts, Dreams Unlimited Travel agent and Welcome Center Manager, Teresa Eccles.
Hey.
Client Services Manager for Dreams Unlimited Travel, Kevin Close.
Hi, everyone.
And super duper producer, Craig Williams.
Oh, hoy, hoy.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you guys for being here on the show. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody at home, for tuning in. Like I said, we've got Teresa on. Yay! Always great when Teresa joins us. Yay! Fantastic when Teresa's here. But I'm really excited because Teresa got a chance to host an Adventures by Disney group trip. Now, Kevin and I did a group earlier in the year. July, Kevin, end of July, beginning of August, that time frame.
Okay. Yes, you are correct.
All right, thank you. And so we had a second trip going around Halloween, and we just couldn't do two this year. It was just too much for us, just too much going on. So I reached out to Teresa, and I said, Teresa, would you like to host this group? And she was very generous and said, yes, she would host the group as long as I paid for everything. So Thank you for being generous, Teresa.
Thank you for paying.
So let's start with, when did you go? When was your trip?
It was the first week of October is when we went. I think actually it was October 1st was our first day.
And you had a smaller than usual group. We usually have about 32 to 35 people in our groups. How big is your group? Do you remember the group size?
I think total it was 22, including me and my daughter. I took Stella with me. So it was a nice size. Including the guides.
Say that again?
That doesn't include the guides.
No.
And who were your guides this trip?
Summer Rose and Ralph.
Yeah,
Ralph's
we had
trip. Yeah.
We had both of them on our trip. We love them both. You guys know we love Summer Rose. She's our favorite guide. So, and Ralph has become a friend. So that's very, very exciting. So let's talk a little bit of generalities of this trip. So you've done a Backstage Magic before, correct?
I did one, I think, about 10 years ago. So I was familiar enough to know what to expect. Stella, my daughter, who's 21, went with me for her first time in California, first time to Disneyland. And she told me when we got back, this is the only way that she will go back to California again. Yes. Like, well, talk to Uncle John. I'm not sure how we're going to do this.
Exactly.
But no, we had done it. I had done it before. And just like the first time, it was fairly seamless, from the pickup at the airport to taking us back to the airport. The entire thing was amazing.
Was Stella nervous at all about this trip? I mean, I realize that you've done it before, and you're really great with people. You've got a really great rapport with folks, and you're outgoing and all that stuff. How did Stella feel pre-trip? Was she
Stella
cool
does suffer from anxiety, so she was, and she doesn't not want to really walk up and start talking to someone. So she was a little worried about that. I was worried too. I didn't tell her that I was worried, but I thought she might be overwhelmed by it all, because I remembered and I knew how it was going to be. You're going to meet these people and you're going to be with them all the time, and you form friendships, and it's great because y'all have a common interest in why you're there. And she loves Disney, so she went into it quite easily. In fact, once we got there, she was just all smiles, and we had the welcome dinner the first night. And you know how you go around, they take you around the room and everybody introduces themselves. And we were all sitting at round tables, and we just finished eating our dinner, and they started at our table, and they started with me. And they said you could stand up or sit down. I didn't want to stand up. So I sat there and I introduced myself. and they went all the way around the table. Everyone sat down. When they got to Stella, she stood up, which totally freaked me out. And she's like, "I'm Stella. I'm standing up because I'm really looking cute today." And it was just weird. She was
Good
so
for her.
not Stella, and everybody was like, "Oh, yay, Stella!" And there were some people on in our group that knew Stella, that were friends, and they were sitting there with their mouths open, like, "Who the heck is this? And what happened to Stella?" But she she had a great time, and her all week long, it just got better for her to the point where she was walking with other people in the parks and not with me. And I think at one point she was holding hands with somebody else. I mean, it was just, yeah,
Were they with your group?
I think so. Yeah, they were. Yeah. So I think,
Show hands with some random old couple.
right. Some old couple. She just loved them. It was Laura Bunt. But, anyway, anyway, it was, she had a good time, and it was, she went into it nervous and came out of it ready to go back.
Can
That's
I just
awesome.
jump in for a second?
Sure,
Yeah.
please do.
There are people who book adventures by Disney who are not, they tell me they are not group people. And what they come back and tell me was this was wildly different than what they expected. That everybody was very friendly, everybody had a common interest, everybody was looking out for everyone else. So they come back and, you know, they tell me that this was a very different experience than what they expected. The other thing is, you said something, Teresa, you're with these people all the time. The group activities that ABD schedules are group activities. And if you want to participate, you have to stay with the group. However, when you have on your own time, you're not attached to the other people. You can wander off on your own. You can do what you want.
Uh,
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to mention that it's a really good balance between planned in the group and alone time. And for an instance, when we first got to Hollywood, we we had probably 4 or 5 hours before we had our welcome dinner after we had checked in. So we wandered around Hollywood, and Stella and I and two other people from our group, we got on the chintzy little chopped off van and took a bus tour of Hollywood, and it was it was so fun. I mean, it was unplanned. We just, there was some guy on the street, come take the tour, and we talked him down to a lower price than what he originally wanted. And when we came back for our tour time, it was so funny because there's really cool vans, like open air vans. And then he said, "Oh, yours is over here." And he led us to this one that was like broken down and looked a little rougher than the others because I think we paid the lower price. I don't know, but we still got the same cool, Hollywood, the houses and Rodeo Drive. It was really cool. I mean, it was a nice little way to start the adventure on
Yeah,
our
that's
own.
not part of the adventure. They had done that
No.
for a couple of our trips, but one of the great things we say to people is you should definitely get to your adventure early. Because if you do, first of all, you get to acclimate to the time zone if you're going
Hmm.
through a time zone change. You get rid of the jet lag, but also, you want a little bit of time to enjoy where you're staying because these trips are go, go, go. So, you're going to get up early, you're going to be out late. You want to, a little bit of a buffer. We want you to book. We always suggest you book pre-nights and post-nights for these trips. So I
Definitely.
don't want to go through a step-by-step.
Okay.
Um, we've done these trips. Craig's done the trip, and we've done a lot of sort of in-depth. Here's what you do day one. Here's what you do day two. I don't want to do that here because first of all, I want to leave a little bit to the imagination, but I want you to talk more about like what were the highlights of the trip for you? Like maybe unexpected stuff or stuff you've done before that was better this time. Like anything you've got there, I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. Well, definitely the Hollywood portion, the location was a highlight for me. The Lowe's right in Hollywood, that gets you excited, and we were really excited for that. And we were really excited for the theater tours and seeing all the footprints of all the stars. We loved that when they gave us a walking tour around Hollywood. And The Muppet, the Jim Henson Studios was a highlight for both of us, definitely, without a doubt. Stella got to be a puppeteer, and that was amazing. The whole the history of all of that was a major highlight for both of us. And then, of course, Disneyland itself, um, coming in early when there's nobody else in the park is that's something you can't really put a price on it. If you love Disneyland, you go in and you're in there before rope drop. You're in there before, and you get to see all the other people waiting behind the rope while
Mhm.
you're already in there enjoying it for, a good hour. So that was definitely a major highlight for both of us.
People love Henson, the studio tour. We do too, but we've done it quite a bit. So we
Mhm.
kind of hang back. I always enjoy watching the people in our group, as they sort of come out of things and the things they get to do and the things they've learned about. They're so excited and they're so into it. Like I said, we forget sometimes what it means to be on these trips when you do them over and over again. And also, we're planning other stuff. We're getting ready for other stuff to happen. So we're trying to juggle a couple things. But Henson
Right.
Studios is a big deal for people. Nobody gets to go in there except for an Adventures by Disney group or if you work there. There's
And it's
no
a working
public.
studio.
Mhm.
It's there's people working, and I don't remember, someone came in while we were there waiting in the general courtyard, and a car pulled in, someone got out, and they just kind of whispered to us, "Don't take pictures." And I didn't know who it was. Someone thought it might they not might know, but it was just like it's a working studio, and it's just amazing that you get to see that behind the scenes. You get to see it. You get to kind of be a part of it, and they're just amazing. And Imagineering too. I'd forgotten about that all until just now. What you get to see there, and it just, I mean, I know we can't talk about some of the things that we saw,
Yep, some of the things we
but
want to keep a secret. Kevin, who
right.
did you get to see at Henson Studios one time when we were
Oh my
there?
gosh. Um, I had done these tours before, and my eyes don't dilate quickly enough to go from light to dark to light to dark. So, what I usually do is I usually sit outside and wait for the groups to sort of make their circuit. And I was sitting with a friend of ours, and as soon as our group broke up and went into buildings, Brian Henson walked through the right in front of us. So everybody came out and I said, "Oh, we saw Brian Henson." And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So they broke up.
Liar.
And what happened, you liar? And they broke up and they went into their other groups because there's usually three groups and there's three stations. So as soon as they went into their stations again, Brian Henson walked by. I don't know what possessed us to not take a picture, but this happened three times. And I thought, could you just sit on the bench till they all come out? He wouldn't. One of the things about
Uncool
Henson
people.
One of the things about Henson Studios that I love is the history. At the back of the studio, there is this barn that looks much older than the rest of the studio. That barn was built by Charlie Chaplin. This was Charlie Chaplin's studio. And there are references to him throughout the property, but I went back and touched that barn, and it's where he made his movies in the early part of the century, last century. So I think that history is kind of cool.
That
Yeah.
is cool.
Not
Very
to give
cool.
not to give anything else away because there's a lot that studio is rich in history. There's a lot that happened there. So, and it's one of those things, like I said, this is not, you can't, as a person who's in the public, you can't buy a tour of this. This is just something you do with ABD. I want to go on to Imagineering. Now, that's the big day. That's what we call the tent pole day. You go to the studios, ABC Studios, Disney Studios, and then you move on to Disney Imagineering. What were some of the highlights there, Teresa, that you can't talk about?
That I can't talk about.
No.
Um, well, just the tour itself, and knowing that they were, um, the hallway where they had all of the artwork. I love that. I love the the room with the sculptures and all of that. I wanted to stay in there for quite a while. Stella did
Hmm.
too. It's just so much history in there, and so many, you can't take it all in. You try, but it's hard
Unfortunately, they
to.
do not allow you to wander on your own.
You don't. I tried. I tried and it didn't work. They dragged me back. But yeah, it's an amazing. And then of course, there's always shop opportunities. They say everywhere you go, there's a shop opportunity, and we took full advantage of that too, of the shopping.
You get to shop. You get to shop at Mickey's of Glendale. That's not a
Yeah,
secret.
that
Most
was kind of
folks know
cool.
that. That's an Imagineering store. That's where the Imagineers can shop, and you can get Imagineering merchandise and stuff like that. So that's a
And
cool
cool
part
things,
of the
yeah.
trip.
Yeah, we saw
Um,
about quite a few things in there.
was there anything like on Imagineering that someone like freaked out about? Because usually it's, I mean, you like the statue
Mhm.
room, but usually someone sees something and they're like, I can't believe I got a chance to see that or
I
experience that.
think
Or
at one point we got to see and I don't know, I apologize, I don't know what they're called. They're like little renderings of, I think we saw, um, what is it? Oh, my mind just went blank.
is it Disneyland related or was it movie
No,
related?
Disney World,
Oh,
over at, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. I'm gonna say it and you're gonna freak me out because 'cause I'm not saying it. Avatar. We got to see little renderings of that. We got to see, some of the artwork. People were just standing around just amazed at it, and I think what we liked was a big hit for everybody. We all got to take our picture in there and where the sculptures were and everything.
yeah, it's really, really a great experience. Again, these are things you can't do unless you take an Adventures by Disney trip. So, very, very exclusive, very, very, secretive stuff you get to take a look at and see, which is very cool. So yeah, a big highlight for everybody is once you get to Disneyland Resort, this part of the trip is fast
You
paced.
glossed right over the
What
studios.
I do? Oh, I said
You
the
glossed.
studios were on that day, but go ahead. What do you want to say about them?
That's a bigger deal.
Is it
Um,
really?
the studios, yeah, it's not.
The
You can't just
commissary and
talk
all
about
that.
it. Yeah, and there's a store there, a Disney store, and the
That
Disney.
was pretty amazing. The walking around, getting the tour of the Disney Studios, having lunch at the commissary. When we came out from there, we went and did some shopping, and most of our group, myself not included, Josh Damaro was walking in to have lunch, and I missed him. Afterwards, everybody came running up. Oh, you missed him. Well, okay, I've met him before. It was pretty cool, but it was a highlight of that day for many people. Was
You and Josh are tight. You don't need to
We're
meet
tight.
Josh.
We've known each other for years. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I
I
met him
do.
I
back when
go.
he wasn't he in charge of ABD? He was head over
He
ABD for
was.
a while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's when I initially met him, and not that he would remember me or anything, but uh, that was a highlight for a lot of people that particular day because it was just they saw someone that they knew that they could identify with that's as a head works at Disney that they just they were in loved it. I don't know what else to say
He
about
If
does
it.
a
you're a
little bit.
Disney,
What,
Okay,
Kevin?
Kevin.
if you're a Disney fan, a diehard Disney fan, and you get to visit the studios, you have to watch the movie Saving Mr. Banks before you go. A lot of it was filmed on the Disney studio lot.
Yep. They
So you
show
could
the.
recognize.
It was pretty cool. It was, and it was different from when I had done it 10 years ago. They had changed it up a little bit. I remember we had gotten to see Walt's office the first time around, and that's something that you don't see now. But we did get to see the tunnel underground from one building to another. That was pretty cool. So, and people, once
So
again, it's a working studio.
yeah, I want to go back to the Josh Tomorrow thing. I like how Teresa characterized him as someone who works at Disney.
He
I,
does.
I think he does a little bit more than work at Disney.
I, I
I'm going to
do
tell you,
think. Sorry, I was going to say
okay,
Teresa just made a really good point, as in it's a working studio, because I've done a couple tours with D23 and with Adventures by Disney, and they were almost always very similar in what you got to see and do and experience. But the last time on my ABD group, it was completely different because there was an active production happening at the studio. And so they basically walked us in one giant perimeter, didn't really go in and out of anything, ate at the commissary in the store, and then it's like, okay, get out of here. So just keep in mind it is a working studio. If there is an active production, there's nothing they can do about it. The production is going to take precedence over the group. However, that was a lot of exterior shots that were happening, so that's what impacted it. If they're working inside sound stages, that's not going to have an impact on your group or you at all. But yeah, they were like, there was trucks constantly coming in, dropping stuff off, and it was like, okay, you can't go over there, you can't go over there, you can't go over there, you can't go over there. It was like, it was very wild, but also very unique to see that,
Yeah,
because
right. Very
you go to,
exciting.
yeah, you go to Universal Hollywood and they try to tell you like, oh, it's a real working studio. Yes, it is, but it's different seeing it actually happen in front of your eyes versus like passing sound stages. So
Right.
We were there.
yeah.
We were in Hollywood one time, and we were there the day before the Academy Awards. So they had the red carpet set up on Hollywood Boulevard, and everything was blocked off. So you had to walk around it. And while that was a little bit of an inconvenience, it's one of those experiences that you can't plan for. So it was fun.
Mhm.
It's cool to be a part of it, though, to be in the studio and to see people going about their lives, just doing their job. I don't care what they were doing or what their purpose was, but it was cool. Like, oh man, they really work here, and we're just walking along gawking at them like, like we're from East Bumble. But it was, oh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it
We were
immensely.
there
You are
one
from
time.
East Bundle.
What?
You are from East Bumble.
I am from
We
East
were in the
Bumble. Yes.
studios one time when they were filming the show Brothers and Sisters, which starred Sally Field. And they told us going in that we might run into the cast of Brothers and Sisters walking around the lot filming, and that we were not supposed to talk to them or ask
Look at
for
them.
autographs or take pictures. And every time we walked outside, John grabbed my head and faced it towards the wall. He was like, "Don't look at people." Because I kept telling people, if I run into Sally Field, you're going to have to get a restraining order.
I was afraid the guides would get hurt. I was afraid there would be a brawl. Kevin running towards Sally Field. I love you. Yeah, it's a great experience. And I mean, again, we're talking about things that a lot of times, this is the same trip, right? The trip has a certain pattern and a certain flow, but you never know what's going to happen. And you never know
Right.
what you're going to see or who you're going to see or what your experience is going to be. I want to move on to Disneyland. I apologize for going too fast through the studios and stuff, but we could talk about this stuff for hours. Disney, the arrival in Disneyland is huge, and then the things you get to do in Disneyland are spectacular. Teresa, you touched on that a little bit. Talk about the morning you get to go in with nobody in the park.
That was pretty cool. So they just walked us in, and there were people getting ready for rope drop. I don't remember what, because we had an early breakfast at the plaza, a character breakfast. And so we got to go in, we got to take pictures in front of the castle. I don't know. They gave us our own little Mickey hats, Mickey ears. I loved. And then we had lunch. We were sitting in the plaza when you could see the people lined up, packed, trying to get in, ready to get in. And we had the bird's eye view of when they pulled the rope down in front of the castle, and people it was like chaos. Like they were running for, chocolate in my world. And it was just pretty cool. And the characters at the plaza, that's the first time I'd ever eaten there. And the food was good. It was buffet, and enjoyed that. But the character interaction we got, I felt like we got more interaction than we would have if we would not have been on the ABD trip.
Definitely.
I mean,
Well, first of all, you're there early, right? So the
right.
place hasn't filled up yet, so the characters can spend time with you. Did the gentleman come out and talk to you about the history of the plaza?
Yes. It was
Did he tell
interesting.
you
I mean,
he was a big fan of the Diz and he watches it all the time?
really? Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't get that part, but he came out and talked, and he'd been there for years, I think, a long time.
He waited on Walt.
Wow. I didn't get that story. Maybe some of the others did because he didn't. But that's pretty cool. But yeah, it was an amazing day, and like you said, it was action packed. We never stopped, so there was a lot going on.
You get to go to some cool stuff. You get to see some things. You get to do some backstage experiences.
Hmm.
But also, what I think is really great is they load a bunch of, I'm going to use an old term, fast passes. They give you, they gave you, right? I assume, um, Genie Plus reservations on
Hmm.
your Magic Band and all that. Please tell me they did that.
No, no, they did. What are you
Because
talking about? We didn't get any of that.
I
We
feel
ate
like
breakfast and
maybe.
left. No, no, they did, and they kept saying, and then they'd say, and then they give you more, and it was crazy, and we used, gosh, I'm trying to think what, I think I don't know how many you got. It seemed like there was at least 4,
Like
and
every
then you got,
day.
yeah, oh, every day you got more, yeah. So it was, and going behind the scenes on a couple of the rides, the attractions, was really cool. You're going places where you're not gonna be able to go just coming in the park, you know? You're going behind that door and going behind, and, you don't re I didn't realize how much. I knew there's gonna be a lot of walking, but a lot of the walking was backstage where you're walking to get to the entrance so you can come in the backside and see, what they're doing and how they do it. So it was pretty cool. And I rode, Radiator Springs for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And I think I did it twice, and I screamed my head off the whole way like I was flying down the highway. It was pretty cool.
Like Kelvin was driving and you were flying
Right?
down the
No,
highway.
yeah, it was crazy. And I'm like, Grace, my daughter's driving. But, yeah, so I got to experience things that I wouldn't normally have done because if it's something I'm not really passionate about, like a certain ride, I'm not gonna wait excuse me, I'm not gonna wait in line for it. But when I'm put to the head of the line, sure, if you're gonna give me the I'll do it. And I find that I enjoy it. So now when I go back, I will wait in line for the rides that I couldn't do, that I didn't wanna do before, because I didn't think I would
Can I
like it,
just
but
interject for a second?
yes, you may.
Please.
The vast majority of this is handicapped accessible. So if you're in a scooter or a mobility device, you can do the vast majority of this. Like for Radiator Springs, you would have to be able to transfer into one of the vehicles, but you get to go backstage and experience the backstage stuff. There's no barriers. So that's
There isn't.
important.
And that's kind of the way we had a service dog in our group, and the couple that he was with, that he traveled with, they did Radiator. They had I didn't even realize this or had never seen it before. They had a crate there for the dog to wait in while he was doing these different things, and I didn't even realize that that was an option. I mean, I kept thinking, "Okay, is he gonna go on the ride with them?" Or, but they just, because I was standing right there, he got in his crate, they got on the ride, they got off, and he was good to go.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's cool.
it was
That's awesome.
pretty cool.
So you mentioned Stella's first time to Disneyland. Of course, this is unusual. Most people's first time to Disneyland is not this cool and this sort of have
Right.
this access. What were highlights for her at Disneyland?
Well, Fantasyland, she had done some, before we left, she had, of course, seen enough Disney movies and heard me talking, and she was excited about Disneyland, and walking down Main Street, seeing her face was a highlight for me, and the rides, all of Fantasyland, she just wanted to stay there. She wanted to live there. She wanted to move in there. And I think doing it, I mean, it was crowded, but for someone with anxiety that she struggles with, doing it in the bubble of ABD was such a plus for her and I both, because she felt somewhat protected, she wasn't like, I don't know, it's hard to explain when you have if you have anxiety in the parks, like she doesn't like fireworks and she has trouble with loud noises and things like that. So most of the time she was just wanting to. And can we mention Walt's apartment?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay,
People
so
know we do that.
going into Walt's apartment, that was something that we got to do. That she wanted to move in there. She was ready to just, I'm going to sleep over here where Lillian did on this little sofa. And she was ready to, because that was right up her alley. And we got to spend, because we were such a small group, we got to spend, I think, extra time in there.
Can I
Because,
explain why it's such a small group?
yeah, you could
No,
explain why it was such a small group.
of course you can.
Is that
This
what you were
trip
going to say?
This trip included tickets to Oogie Boogie Bash. So at the time the tickets became available, they're highly coveted and it sells out quite regularly. And they told us we could have Oogie Boogie tickets for the number of people that we had booked. And you said it was 24. So they would only allow us 24 tickets. So if we sold any other spaces on the trip, those people would not get Oogie Boogie tickets. And I thought, well, there's no way I can sell a trip where everybody else is going to the Oogie Boogie Bash and you're not. Sorry. So that's why the trip was limited to a smaller amount.
Yeah,
Disney's doing.
I know. I, I was comfortable with the smaller group. I know we could have handled a lot, 10 more maybe,
Okay.
but it was a nice group. I was happy that my first time out there hosting was, and knows John, I say my first time out there hosting
I heard that. I got that hint.
was a
Heard it
small
go
group.
crashing to the
But
floor.
right.
What did you think
Teresa's
of the?
she's
Say again.
manifesting.
She is. Oh my God. Um, so you mentioned, we talk about the fact that we do a couple of these trips every year, and what we try to do is on one of the trips is we fluctuate between, not fluctuate, we alternate between a Halloween trip and a Christmas trip because those are great times to go to Disneyland. What did you think of Disneyland decorated for Halloween?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. Haunted Mansion, um, everything. The Small World, everything was, I mean, they do Halloween. Disneyland itself does Halloween so much more intense, I think, than Walt Disney World. And California Adventure, which is where the party was, the Oogie Boogie Bash, was unbelievable. The decorations, the characters, the parade was just, and we had prime seats for the parade, and it was just, I don't know, it was just amazing.
That's
I
the other
love the way they
thing.
decorate.
That's the other thing ABD does. You get special seating for parades and fireworks and
Mhm.
shows. So, you don't have to fight the crowds. Everybody's there waiting for you in a special area and you all get to enjoy it together. So that's a great time for folks. I want to just mention that we've got two trips, two Dreams Unlimited travel groups, exclusive groups going next year. Kevin, what are those dates?
Those dates are June 30th through July 5th and December 8th through December 13th of 2024.
Do you think maybe we should send Teresa on at least one of those trips to host one of those?
I think we should send Stella.
Yeah, Stella
Exactly.
could work a room, boy. She,
I agree. Send Stella. This way the Welcome Center's covered. We don't
oh
have to
wait,
worry
you're sending
about
her
that.
without me?
Yes, that's what he said.
No, she can't travel without me. Sorry. I'm
What do
her
you think,
emotional
Teresa?
support parent.
Would you like to host a trip again?
I would. I would. It's, you know what? The people that go on, the guests that come with us get such an amazing experience. And it's not because you're there or I'm there. I'm sorry, John. It's because of what we get to do. But the fact that we're there with them, and like I said before, we all share the common interest, and it's just so exciting and so it's so much fun, and I just love messing with people and having fun with them, and you know,
We got a
yes,
tremendous amount of feedback from your group. Tremendous amount of people wrote to me and said this was an incredible trip. They loved it. They loved traveling with you, Teresa.
Aw,
One of the best vacations they've ever had. So, I mean, you really, really, you did a great job hosting this trip, and I'm glad you had a good time because,
thank you. I
you know,
know.
that's part of it.
Just in a quick note, a gentleman that was on my first ABD trip was also on this one, and I mean, I loved when I saw him and I knew he was going to be on this trip with us. I was so excited, and I hope he was too because it was just so much fun, and everybody that went on it had so much fun.
Are you talking
And
If
about our
it
it's
was
who
friend
I
just,
think
Jason?
it,
excuse me,
Are you talking about our friend Jason?
I am, yes.
he wrote to
Uh,
me,
Did he?
he's a good
and
guy. He's a good friend. Yep. And go ahead, tell him what he said. Sorry.
he could not have been more complimentary. That you make it seem easy and fun, and you talked to everybody. He was very, very, very complimentary. And
He's
And
Jason
I
never
told
hugged
me
left.
him.
this a couple.
He got a couple hugs from me. I'm a hugger. I'm like right up in their face, and he's like, "Oh,
He's
you're
done this.
hugging? Okay."
He's done this a
He's
couple times. So
Yeah,
yep. And he's
he's
done it a couple
awesome.
times with us, and he said it was the best trip he's ever done. So I'm very,
Oh,
very upset
well.
with you, Teresa. How
Wow.
dare you top me? Very upset
Someone has to sometimes. So yeah, that was,
sometimes.
yeah. I love Jason.
We do too. Good guy. I'm very happy that you went on this trip. I'm glad you guys had a good time. Glad Stella had a good time. Want to just once again mention we've got 2 trips going in 2024. Teresa may host one or both. We'll see how it goes. If you're interested in booking any of those trips, Kevin at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, and he will help you book them. Or you can reach out to Teresa and she'll make sure we get you on the list and get you moving. Teresa,
June
thanks so much
30th
for
through
sharing your.
July 5th, June
Sorry,
30th through
Kevin.
July 5th, December 8th through December 13th.
Yep.
Fun.
So you get 4th of July and Christmas.
Yep. Trying to do the holidays. Teresa,
Good
thanks so
times.
much for coming on the show and
Thank you,
talking to
John.
us about your trip.
Thank you for sending me, and I appreciate it. It was a lot of
You're
fun.
very, very welcome. Good job. Thank you guys for joining me here. I appreciate that as well. Thank you, everybody home, for listening and watching. We hope you have a great week and we hope you have a great vacation.